Here's the fundamental case. When you're talking about economics, do you have a job? That's an important thing. But are you making enough money to get ahead? Do you have more disposable income? Is there a pathway to building generational wealth? That is not possible under the Joe Biden economy. It's been a disaster for virtually all Americans except the very rich.
You see black people walking around with my mugshot.
Well, first of all, in that event, the president talked for an hour. He was being glib, having a little bit of fun with the crowd, talking about what's happened. Because, look, if you're being falsely accused of so much junk that is politically motivated, you would try to find some time to have fun with it as well. But that being said, what the president is focused on is an agenda that's going to put the American people first. And that's why you have voters from all demographic groups are starting to look his way, especially black men, Hispanic men, etc., because they have seen the Joe Biden policies. It's been a disaster. That's why I call him the master of disaster, because everything has gone wrong. And they want a president who's going to be focused on America first, get the country on track. That's Donald Trump.
There's the Central Park Five. I mean, there are a lot of examples.
But we can also talk about Joe Biden's record.
No, but I'm just wondering, Donald Trump is making a pitch to black voters.
Joe Biden issued the 94 crime bill. It was devastating to black voters. You know this. It was devastating to black men in particular, the 94 crime bill. Joe Biden did that.
Joe Biden
didn't want his own kids to be bused with schools. Joe Biden did that. That was his record as well. So let's not just focus on what Donald Trump has said a long time ago. Look at his record as president of the United States.
I don't
and
know.
His record as president was one that actually wanted all Americans to thrive and succeed. He did not pick and choose when he was president. What Americans are looking for right now is his competency as commander-in-chief. And that is why when people compare 45 versus 46, I mean, look, the choice is clear. The 45th president was significantly better than the 46th. It's without a doubt.
That's obviously your opinion because you're a surrogate for him. I do want to get to a little bit of your own history. Sure. You have a really interesting story. When you were 18 years old, you were charged with a marijuana possession, intent to distribute charge. You benefited from leniency. You benefited from a diversion program that kept you out of jail. Why shouldn't that be available to other teens right now?
Listen, that's a great question. First of all, when I was 18 years old, it was possession of marijuana. I had it. Make no excuses for it. It was wrong. It's wrong at any other time. I had to deal with it then, and I moved on with my life, like every man and woman should. When you mess up, you make up, but you never give up. I never gave up on myself, and neither did my family, neither did my friends. Now to the bill that you're talking about. What's going on in the District of Columbia is that they treat all offenders from the ages of 25 and younger as minors. No other state in the country does that. No other jurisdiction does that. So all we did in the nation's capital is say, you're going to treat DC offenders 18 and younger as minors like everybody else does. That's what we did. That's the appropriate application of the law because juvenile crime is up massively in DC and DC is not safe.
I, as a former DC resident, I lived there for many, many years. I understand what's going on in the district and the challenges that they're facing with crime. But you were also 18 years old. You were an adult.
I was.
And you benefited from a diversion program that allowed you to not actually serve time for your offense.
The state of Florida had a diversion
I wonder,
program, yes.
I mean, why should that not be available? If you're an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old in the district, why shouldn't it be possible under certain circumstances, I'm not saying in blanket cases, for those individuals to benefit from the same kind of leniency that you did?
Now, are we talking about having a dime bag in your pocket, or are we talking about?
I'm talking about discretion, which is based on a case-by-case basis.
But Abby, let's be consistent.
You're asking me to clarify, so I just want to clarify what I'm asking.
But I want to be consistent. Are we talking about somebody having a dime bag in their pocket, or are we talking about carjacking? Because the crimes in D.C. that are being tried as juveniles for people who are 22, 23, 24 is carjacking. It is burglary. Hold on.
I understand, but your bill is a blanket bill.
That is wrong.
It doesn't discriminate based on.
And because the D.C. City Council does not take crime seriously, then it is incumbent upon Congress to do that. And that's what we're going to do.
One of the interesting things about this. Do you want the nation's
capital to be safe? I know I do.
Congressman, one of the interesting things about this, though, is that it actually prevents the D.C. officials from making laws that actually are stricter on crime. Why would you want to do that?
The D.C. City Council has proven, frankly, for the last last decade that they are not interested in actually prosecuting crime and keeping people safe in D.C. They went through a series of bills that they wanted to do, which Muriel Bowser herself vetoed, and the council overrode her. It took Congress to act to throw that out. My colleague from Georgia, Andrew Clyde, led that effort last year, and basically we had to shame Joe Biden into signing that law to repeal what the D.C. City Council wanted to do, because they wanted to make it more progressive and not make public safety number one.
I think the bottom line that I'm trying to get at here, and I'm trying to understand where you stand, because you are in a unique position. You understand what it means to have a second chance.
Yes, I do.
And you're supporting a bill that basically takes that off the table in a blanket fashion for a lot of people. Do you believe that there should be second chances for young offenders in certain circumstances?
Abby, of course I do.
So then why would you support a bill that would make that not possible in the District of Columbia?
First of all, that's not what the bill does. Let's be clear. So number two, I'm a product of second chances. I had an ability to turn my life around, and I made the most of it. And I would tell that to anybody that's made a mistake. You have an opportunity to walk away from that mistake and do better going forward. And so my story is indicative of that. But what we also have to do is make sure that adults are tried as adults. I was not tried.
If that was applied to you when you were 18 and when you were 21, you would have been facing jail time.
When I was 18 in Florida, they treated me like I was 18 as an adult who can sign a contract, who can go into the military, who can do so many other things, who could vote. They treated me as an adult. That's all we're saying to do in the District of Columbia.
I just want to note that when you were 21, you faced more charges again. Also did not go to jail in Florida as well.
But hold on, let's be clear. I did serve 2 years of probation. I went through that process. I did have to go and have it adjudicated. I went through that process. I also, under Florida law, went and had it sealed. I went through that process. And then when all that stuff was done, I did also go get a job, become a standing member up in my community, served in my church, coach kids in basketball and football.
I think it's absolutely,
built a family. I did all those things as well.
I think
it is possible, but you cannot be lenient. There has to be laws on the books that hold people accountable.
Congressman, there's no question there was leniency available to you. That is why you have such an extraordinary story.
There is leniency in the law in so many other places, but what the DC
I don't say.
Well, hold on, Abby, but you got to be consistent.
You cannot
what
be
DC is doing is not about leniency, and it's not about second chances. What DC is doing is this radical, progressive view of criminal justice, which is making communities less safe. That's what I oppose.
I want to ask you about another issue. Just recently, there was this issue of the search warrant for the search of former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago property. And it authorized the use of deadly force for the FBI agents, standard boilerplate language. But you and others have described it as an assassination attempt on the former president. That's just not true. Why would you say something like that?
Well, first of all, my view of it is very simple. You have the FBI going in to do this raid on Mar-a-Lago. This is not like any other raid that they would do. FBI agents who did that raid did not want to do it. They didn't think it was necessary. And this is all politically motivated at the end because Merrick Garland wanted that to happen. Merrick Garland wanted the scenes, which your network did cover, of going into Mar-a-Lago.
Congressman, with all due respect, the language for the search is standard operating procedure for every operation of that kind that the FBI does. They did the same thing when they searched Joe Biden's house.
Yes, but I would say
so how is that weaponizing
well, what I would say when they searched
Joe Biden weaponizing
when
the
they
DOJ
searched
against
Joe
himself?
Biden's house, there weren't all the networks, from my recollection, with helicopters flying over the beach house in Rehoboth Beach, going to find the classified documents in his garage that he took when he was the vice president and when he was the United States senator, which, by the way, is a violation of the Espionage Act.
Congressman, I'm talking about
They didn't do that.
I'm talking about
they didn't
this
politicize
conspiracy theory.
They didn't politicize
Congressman, I'm talking about the conspiracy theory that the FBI was trying to assassinate Trump.
Well, let's talk
Would you acknowledge that that is not true?
Well, let's talk about what's fact. Let's talk about what's fact.
Just a real simple question.
What's fact
is it true or false that the FBI was trying to assassinate Trump?
What's fact is that Joe Biden violated the Espionage Act. He did it with impunity.
I just want to know.
Robert Hur is not prosecuting
Congressman,
him.
I just want to know that you are not responding to a very simple question about a conspiracy theory that you voiced.
What conspiracy theory?
That the FBI, by having on a document that they are authorized to use deadly force was trying to harm or assassinate former President Trump. That is false. Will you acknowledge that?
Can I be very clear with you?
Sure.
I'm not sure what Merrick Garland is trying to do these days.
So the answer
because
is
it is
no.
clear that the
You
Department
won't
of Justice
acknowledge
is being
that's not
weaponized
true.
against Donald Trump. That is clear.
That's pretty extraordinary.
That they're weaponized against Donald Trump. That's not extraordinary. That's what's happening right now,
It's pretty extraordinary that when faced with really clear facts, very clear facts, it's pretty much black and white, you won't acknowledge it. I'm trying to understand why.
Abby, we just had this conversation.
Is it because
let's talk
the
about what
former
we're
president
witnessing.
himself has raised this conspiracy that you
No,
feel like you
I've
have
not
to
even,
support it?
I've not even talked to the president about this. You asked me a question about the FBI raid. I'm telling you, we are witnessing a weaponization of the Department of Justice against a political rival because Donald Trump had documents covered under the Presidential Records Act. They raided Mar-a-Lago.
I'm not litigating.
Joe Biden had documents, and there's no prosecution because he's a senile old man.
I'm not arguing with you
That's not even equal
validity
justice
of the charges. It's a simple question of whether the raid was carried out in a way that was standard operating procedure for the FBI. And as I'm sure you know, the Republican Party calls themselves a party of law and order.
Yes, of
the
course.
FBI, as law enforcement officers, they go and they execute search warrants every day. Won't acknowledge it. I'm trying to understand why.
Abby, we just had this conversation.
Is it because
let's talk
the
about what
former
we're
president
witnessing.
himself has raised this conspiracy that you feel like you have to support
I've not even talked to the president about this. You asked me a question about the FBI raid. I'm telling you, we are witnessing a weaponization of the Department of Justice against a political. You had Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton violated the Espionage Act. There were no charges.
You're changing
Joe Biden
the subject.
No, because the purpose
you are
of
changing the subject. As I'm sure you know, the Republican Party calls themselves a party of law and order.
Yes, of
the
course.
FBI, as law enforcement officers, they go and they execute search warrants every day under the threat of violence. And they have to have that language every single time to protect themselves. In this case, though, they coordinated with the president's lawyers. They coordinated with the Secret Service. Why would you insinuate that that was some kind of attempt at former President Trump's life?
Abby, I'm not making any insinuation.
It's very simple
I'm not making
to just
any insinuation.
say that's not
the
true.
The only thing I'm saying is that what we have witnessed is an uneven application of the law by the Department of Justice. You had Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton violated the Espionage Act. There were no charges.
You're changing
Joe Biden
the subject.
No, because the purpose of the warrant is because of classified material, is it not?
I'm not talking about
But you have
the
an
purpose
unequal
of the warrant.
application of the law.
I'm talking
about. You have
about
a two-tier system of justice that you don't want to actually acknowledge.
When you tell your supporters and the former president's supporters that there was a government attempt on the former president's life, and that is not true. That is a major insinuation, and it deserves to be walked back. It deserves to be walked back.
I would argue right now, if you look at the actions of Jack Smith and Merrick Garland, there is an attempt to incarcerate Donald Trump over foolishness because they cannot win a political election. And they have lost their minds collectively. And they have decided that whether it's the documents case or this foolish January 6th case, which has no true merit, or what's happening here in Manhattan with Alvin Bragg, that they have chosen to use the justice system for political purposes and interfere in elections. That's not a conspiracy theory, Abby. That's a real situation. We should be talking about not about what's written in the FBI document.
Congressman, you talked about that. You tweeted about the FBI document. You're the one changing the subject. But I do want to make one last note because we have to go. But you've been asked this before. I'm going to ask you again, just for the record. If Donald Trump loses the election in 2024, will you accept the results of that election?
My answer has been very clear on this. If the states,
it's a yes or no question.
If the states and localities actually follow rules and procedures, and everybody sees the rules followed, then of course you accept what's done. But what you cannot have
it's a yes or no
are
question,
judges and municipalities and districts not following law passed by state legislatures. That has led us to the problems we have in our elections. That's where you have Republicans and Democrats object to elections. And so again, we just want to have a clear process.
So your answer is conditional based on...
My answer is always conditional because you want to see the processes of the election actually go according to law, not according to outside groups and legal cases that come up, and you know they do come up.
I mean, the legal cases are how they adjudicate whether they are done by law. So, I mean, I think that is definitely on the table.
You should follow the
as a
law.
way
That's
to
what the
adjudicate it.
Constitution says.
Congressman Byron Donalds, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us.